I'm Dr. Jill Johnson. I've spent my entire career in education. I started in the classroom, then trained teachers, and most recently served as a high school administrator. Now I help highlight the stories, struggles, and successes in educating the next generation of content creators. Welcome to CGTV.
Thank you for having me. I wish I could be there in person, but this will have to do. I'm joining you virtually from the great state of Maine, where it is currently deep in moose season and bright fall foliage. So thanks again for having me. I'm really excited to be here. My name is Laura Kintz, and I'm the social media coordinator for the Maine Department of Inland Fisheries and Wildlife. And basically what that means is that my job is to create content for several social media accounts to build our agency's online presence with the goal of expanding our audience. I spend about a third of my time out in the field capturing photos and videos of our biologists and our game wardens at work, kind of like a mini version of Northwood's Law, if you're familiar with that show from a few years ago. And then about 2/3 of my time is spent in the office editing footage, writing posts and blogs, emails, website content, and creating other digital content. My background isn't in communications. I think a lot of people in this field get into it from different avenues. My background is actually in wildlife biology, but I've always been a photographer, and more importantly, I've always been a storyteller. And so my background in biology and my nature as a storyteller kind of brought this all together, and that's how I'm doing this job today. Careers in other forms of communication, such as journalism, have been around for a really long time. But careers focused on communication through social media have really taken off in recent years, and being an influencer isn't the only option. Those of us that create content for government agencies, or social govs, as we call ourselves, have a unique perspective on the use of social media as a communication tool, and that's the perspective I want to share with you today, because many of the building blocks for successful social media for government could also be applied to social media in your schools. Creating content that represents a group, a business, a school, or other organization is a lot different than creating social media for your personal account. And I think what it all comes down to is learning how to tell a story that's bigger than your own. So I'm going to share my screen with you here and go through a couple of tips and ways I think that work doing government social media can help you in your schools. Hopefully you can see that okay. Everybody see the presentation? Okay. So, telling a story that's bigger than your own. In my role, I tell the story of our entire department, our entire Fish and Wildlife Department, including the people who work here. I often consider myself a translator, and I have to be able to speak the language of everyone else in the department. For example, I have to take technical scientific information from biologists, like these fisheries biologists and hatcheries biologists, and share it in a digestible way to the public. I also have to tell the story of the natural resources that our staff manages and protects. So non-game species and game species, like these kestrels and this black bear. And I tell the story of the impacts that those people and the natural resources they protect have on our state. So in general, I tell the story of the Maine outdoors. And I'll get into some tips and tricks that I use to help tell that bigger story, things that you can apply to telling the bigger story of your schools. But first, I want to discuss how taking the time to understand who your audience is and what motivates them to consume social media content can help creators like you produce better content and increase engagement. Have you asked yourself who makes up the target audience you'd like to connect with? What do you think that they hope to gain from your content? And what does your school gain by connecting with them? The more you think about these types of questions, the better prepared you'll be to choose the right methods and style to create impactful and engaging content. So let's look at Maine Department of Inland Fisheries and Wildlife as an example to get you thinking about who your audience is. Our department's mission is to preserve, protect, and enhance the inland fisheries and wildlife resources in our state, while also enabling and promoting the safe enjoyment of the Maine outdoors. So given this, our core audience is made up of both residents, landowners, and visitors, as well as tourists, who recreate in the outdoors in a myriad of ways, from hunting and fishing and trapping to ATVing, snowmobiling, boating, paddling, hiking, wildlife photography, snowshoeing, habitat management, bird watching, you name it. And it includes outdoor enthusiasts as well as people looking to experience more of the Maine outdoors in new ways. But we're also trying to reach people who haven't yet found that connection to nature. As you can tell, it's a pretty broad audience. It includes people of all ages, backgrounds, abilities, identities, and experiences. But the common thread is Maine's natural resources and outdoor recreation opportunities. So who makes up your target audience for your school's social media? Is it students, parents, teachers, area residents, other schools? What's their common thread? Understanding who makes up your audience is important, but just as important is understanding why they seek out content. Think about the different types of accounts that you follow and why you follow them. Most people follow a wide variety of accounts, including friends and family, celebrities and influencers, brands and businesses, and news outlets. Some people look for collections of content related to a specific topic, or in our case, an organization or agency that has a role in that specific topic. The reasons that people follow certain accounts can really fit into 5 main: connection, inspiration, and entertainment. The reason I said that those of us that work in government social media have a unique perspective on social media as a communication tool is that the public that we serve looks to us to fulfill all 5 of these categories through the content that we publish. And it's our job as social media managers to balance those expectations. It's a challenge, but when you get it right, you can see the difference it makes in the community, both on and offline. So let's look at each of these 5 categories that people look for from social media and how creating content to fulfill these motivations will benefit the group you're representing. And again, we'll use Maine Department of Inland Fisheries and Wildlife as an example. So the first topic is information. Maine Department of Inland Fisheries and Wildlife includes a Fisheries and Hatcheries Division, a Wildlife Division, a Licensing and Registration Division, an Engineering Division, and the Maine Warden Service. My position is part of an Information and Education Division, which is responsible for communicating important information from each of these other divisions to the public and answering questions from the public about the work being done in each of the divisions. And that includes a lot of things as far as deadlines and schedules, prices, tools, resources, safety reminders, laws and regulations, or research and survey results. This is just one example of a reminder for deer hunting applications. When it comes to information, one thing to remember is that it can be this black and white sort of need to know type of stuff, which can be boring. So put the extra time and effort into these posts to make them attention grabbing and fun. And this one, we used an attention grabbing photo combined with a little punny humor, and we kept the post nice and short and to the point so that the information is clear. This is just another example of where we point to a resource for locating bodies of water that were recently stocked with trout. Again, it's information-based, but we draw people in with an eye-catching photo, and it's short and to the point and points people to the correct resource. Information that we put out includes things like directions for reporting sightings of endangered species, or listing the dates, times, and locations of special events. Posting clear and timely information on social media is one way to make sure that people have access to correct information straight from the source. It limits misinformation that can occur when people gain information through the grapevine or look to less reputable sources to locate the information that they need. Followers benefit by being able to easily find accurate information, and the department benefits because a well-informed audience is more likely to engage with us, support our work, and get involved. The same is true for your schools. Keeping your audience well-informed will result in a community that will support in, get involved in, and be proud of your school. When you work for a state agency, your staff are generally considered the state's experts in the field, just like how you, as students, know more about what's going on in your school than anyone. When the public has a question related to fish and wildlife needs, they need help solving a fish and wildlife related problem, or they just want to learn something new, we're the ones that they turn to for answers, advice, or mentorship. Similarly, it makes sense for your audience to hear directly from the student body. We provide education through several avenues, including in-person programs, our website, and other digital media outreach, but social media plays a huge role as well. This is maybe my favorite part of social media posts. I love providing bite-sized educational opportunities through social media that are tailored to frequently asked questions or common misconceptions and general curiosities that we get from our audience. We post monthly fishing tips for people looking to target certain species in each region of the state, and we help people provide habitat for pollinators in their own yard. We also provide reminders about ways to stay safe while exploring remote areas of wilderness. We even have a whole series that you can see a little clip of here that we call Species Spotlights, which is dedicated to fun and interesting information about all kinds of wildlife in Maine that people may come across in their own yard or while out exploring. We pack a lot of information at each spotlight by adding some information using a branded graphic, using a casual writing style, and providing a link for people to learn more on our website. We also provide tips for handling common wildlife scenarios, such as how to safely help a turtle across the road. Let's take a look. It just gives you a little sneak peek. The great example I like with this video is that it uses a method that I use in almost all of the posts that I create, and that is layering. Most people prefer short form video, but there's still a lot of readers out there, and this post gives people the opportunity to get information no matter how much they're looking for or how long they're willing to stay. So we have a short video that's less than 60 seconds, but we've added some text on top to make sure that the video still has some context and it's still education. Sorry about that. It keeps wanting to play because the turtle's just so cute. But then also there's the accompanying text with the post to make sure that for those who are willing to go a little bit further, there's some more information there. We've expanded on the information we've shown in the video. Then there is a link to our website, which provides even more information. And once you're on our website, it's just a black hole of information of all other sorts of resources from the department. So no matter how long someone's willing to stay, they're going to learn something. Very good. This is another example of a prescribed burn where it's habitat management through burning. And it's an important topic for us to talk about because it's not something that's well understood. It seems like if you want to save habitat and species that live in there, you wouldn't burn it down, but it's an important management tool. And this video gives a really clear example of a before and after burn to give people a really visual idea of how that works. As a regulatory agency, it's important to share with the public the science that backs up the reasons for certain regulations, laws, and management actions. The topics we cover are far too numerous to list here, but oftentimes we do this by showing our biologists at work in the field, collecting data to use to define wildlife management goals, set harvest regulations, or list a species as threatened or endangered. Showing the behind-the-scenes work builds public trust in our agencies. This is just another example of our fisheries biologists out at work. We have fishing regulations that tell people how many fish of which species, of which size, they are allowed to fish in certain bodies of water at certain times of the year. And by showing the work behind the scenes, we're telling them these aren't numbers just pulled out of thin air. It's all backed in science, and we're showing that science at work in action. If it's in the Maine outdoors, our agency talks about it. As a school, what types of things will your audience turn to you for first when they need answers, advice, and mentorship? Are there any misconceptions about the public that the public has about your school? Is there anything going on behind the scenes that will help your community understand why your school does things the way that they do? So we've talked about information and education. Let's talk about how people look for connection on social media. Social media isn't a one-way street. It's a forum, it's a conversation, it's a place to connect with other people. So don't think about your social media platforms like a school bulletin board where you pin up information and hope that passersby stop to read it. Think of it more as an interactive space where people are actively invited to come in, participate, ask questions, provide feedback, and be heard. Technology often takes the blame for creating distance between people, but can also be used as a tool to bring people of similar interests together and to expose different groups of followers to each other's perspectives. For example, our page is a place where people who are interested in learning a new outdoor activity can connect with a community of outdoor enthusiasts. And it's also a place where non-hunters can better understand wildlife conservation from a hunter's point of view and vice versa. You won't have to scroll very far on our page to be inspired to get outdoors. Stunning visuals of all the Maine's woods and waters have to offer, combined with compelling stories about adventure and wildlife, are a huge part of our content. And the end result is more people wanting to spend time outdoors, play a role in protecting our natural resources, or even work towards a career in fish and wildlife. Our tagline at Maine Department of Inland Fisheries and Wildlife is "All in for the Maine outdoors." And that references our biologists, wardens, and educators as a team working together to protect our natural resources along with Maine's residents and visitors. We want to inspire our communities to be a part of our mission. Seeing what our biologists are up to every day in the field inspires our audience to get involved in community science projects, take action to support wildlife on their own land through habitat management, and learn about ways to protect endangered species. This is an example of a couple of different posts, one of which shows our biologists at work studying turtles, and the other showing ways that the community can get involved directly in turtle conservation as well by providing sightings. Seeing the heroic stories of our game wardens on successful search and rescue missions inspires people even your age to pursue careers in conservation law enforcement. We share what's possible when a community comes together for wildlife. Show your community what's possible when great teachers step in front of a classroom, when coaches encourage teamwork, and when students are proactive in their own education. Inspire other schools to reach their goals by letting your accomplishments shine. The right photos and carefully edited videos can make a real impact. We all know that social media today is one of the most ubiquitous forms of entertainment. There's an overwhelming proportion of social media out there that's just meant to make us laugh, smile, and encourage others to do the same every time it's shared. Social media doesn't always have to be funny to be entertaining. Sometimes it simply has to show us something that we've never seen and probably will never see again. So that's just an example of one of our biologists being his normal self, his normal curious self, walking through the woods and sharing with people the knowledge that he has. It's just fun, and it's a little bit different than his technical scientific biologist self. This is just another example of something you might not see every day. In the bottom right-hand corner, you can see that little light shining, and that's a ground nesting bird, little whippoorwill. This deer on camera doesn't see until the last moment. So it's just a fun, silly little video, but there's always another purpose behind it. So this is a chance to talk about ground nesting birds and their amazing camouflage and interactions between different species of wildlife. At Maine Department of Inland Fisheries and Wildlife, we use a combination of humor, attention-grabbing titles, unique footage, and creative writing to keep our audience entertained and coming back for more. Entertainment is one way to keep traffic flowing through your platform, so there will be more eyes there when you have a serious piece of information that needs to go out. Social media is a short-form world, and you don't have much time to stop the scroll. Entertainment may be one of the most fun parts of managing social media, but it's also the area in which it's most important to stay on top of current topics, techniques, trends, and technology. These things are always changing, but there's two things I believe will always help make better content. The first is to grab attention quickly, and that means hooking viewers in the first 1 to 3 seconds of a video. So get creative on your intros. And the second is to seek out the people who will make your content shine. Find people who are comfortable on camera, enthusiastic, and come across as truly authentic. Here's an example of an intro that worked really well for us. So we looked at who our target audience is and the different reasons that they look for content from us. But how do we make it all happen? How do we tell the story that's bigger than ourselves, draw in our target audience, and expand our following to new groups? There's two ways to think about this. The first is to think about how to make an individual post successful. We could talk all day long about music trends, creative transitions, optimal video length, and the technology and tools available for each of the platforms that you're on. But the truth is that these things are constantly changing. So the best advice I can give you is to keep your eyes and ears open. Pay attention and keep up the best you can with the tools you have. The second is how to make an entire page or profile a success overall. In other words, how can a collection of well-executed posts work together to tell your school's whole story? I have 4 tips that will help you do just that, and they are: find your voice, post with a purpose, mix it up, and get in the field. I describe a successful tone on a page as creatively consistent. Try to maintain consistency, but give your staff some freedom to get creative. Don't let your pages get stale. Try new ways to get those messages out. Some will work, some won't, but you won't know until you try. This is especially important when you have multiple content creators all contributing to the same page. Do each of your posts sound like they're coming from the same source? Is the tone of your page one that matches the expectations of your target audience? It's incredibly important to balance education and entertainment. And if you remember nothing else from my talk today, I hope you remember this: balance education with entertainment. You want your page to be fun and engaging, but don't forget about the opportunity to connect with your followers on serious issues. Think about entertainment not as a standalone goal, but as a way to draw people in to receive important information and educational opportunities. Education is the most important thing, and entertainment is the way to get there. Entertainment is what gets people in the front door, but everything you stand to gain from posting on social media is inside. So even a silly meme should have a reason for going on your page. This is an example of some memes we did for Valentine's Day. They seem just fun and silly, but with them was some resources for important information. Make sure that you're telling the whole story, not just your favorite parts or the parts you're most familiar with. Look back at your feed. Is there variety? Is there anything missing? This is a couple of snapshots in time for our Instagram reels. Both show topics from fisheries, wildlife, educational events, and the Warden Service. Fish and mammals and reptiles, birds and amphibians are all represented, including both game and non-game species. There's footage of both staff and members of our community. Making sure that you get the whole picture is really tough if you're one person representing a group, but collaboration is a beautiful thing. So try to build a team that will help you accomplish the goal of telling the whole story. One of the best ways to get to know what's going on and therefore what's important to post about is by getting involved. It's much easier to write about something when you have experienced it for yourself. So for me, I put on my boots and I head out for days of field work with our biologists, training with game wardens, and go on workshops with educators. In the same way, you can join clubs, attend sporting events, go to concerts and art shows. Why not interview teachers and supportive staff? Talk to students who are involved in activities that you aren't, and engage with communities outside of your school too. You could even think about collaborating with other schools. And don't forget to mix up the type of media that you use. Videos are amazing, but don't forget about those photos and creative writing as well. So in conclusion, just remember to start with figuring out who your audience is, who benefits from consuming content on your page, and who do you benefit from visiting your page. The balance between entertainment and information and education is a delicate one. Always post with a purpose to maintain that balance. Social media is a fast-changing world and it's a fast-changing career, so always look for new ways to stop the scroll. Social media is a powerful tool, and posting on your personal account is far different than posting for a group, organization, business, brand, agency, or school. Find your voice and tell the story that's bigger than your own. The opportunities are endless. I'm just going to put up here for a minute. This is our Facebook page and our Instagram page. My email is also on there. Please feel free to reach out if you're interested, if you have questions, or you just want to know what it's like to go visit a black bear den in the winter in Maine.
Awesome. Well, Laura, thank you so much. We appreciate it. And yeah. Woo!